the office. It actually started in 2006 from a long-term relationship that I have with my partner, Joaquín. We were both colleagues at Harvard University where we met.
I studied in Madrid, and then I went to work with Kuwait, and then I went to Harvard. My name is Joaquín Pérez-Goicoechea.
I'm Nasser Abulhasan,
Principal of AGi Architects, and this is the Architect series.
I think our education at the Graduate School of Design at Harvard was critical because this wasn't only the place that both Joaquín and I met, but this is the place where we began to tackle the larger ideas and the largest phenomena that within the world of architecture did exist.
We believed that we wanted to collaborate with other people. We wanted to really integrate other people. And then we said, how could we do it?
We're lucky enough to have an office that stems between our Madrid head office and our Kuwait head office. We're very privileged to have both offices because, as we know, there is a lot of projects that are coming up in the Middle East. And these projects are quite challenging because of their scale and their rapid speed. We're in a place where we're able to look at the European expertise and the European educational system and the standards, and to try to apply them in markets where we're practicing the most in the past few years because of how the economy has driven the state of this region, to try to adapt both into the same way. We're firm believers that in the practice you're never static. So you have to continue to reinvent yourself. But I think reinventing yourself is purely by you challenging yourself. Wafar Tower was an early experiment that we started our multifamily residential research on.
And this is I think it's 13-story building with 12 apartments. And this was a game changer on the city. So what we had to define very clearly, it was that the independence of each of the apartments should be similar to the independence that they felt when they were in their individual houses and dwelling.
And I think the learnings that we took from Wafar Living were very important because we took a passive design strategy, which was historically used, which is the stacking effect through the wind tower. And we tried to adapt it on a larger scale in actually a no-tech environment, so not even a low-tech.
We made a building that apparently seemed like a rocky building in contrast with all these tall buildings that are created in the center of the cities. Everything is glazed, and we wanted to keep that material, the historical stone, with openings that are proportioned to the housing.
And it created a very important response to the site condition, but also created very pleasant outdoor spaces that people continue to use. As a practice, we come from a deep belief that passive design is extremely critical to developing architecture.
We don't want to see a glass on the facade. We always wanted to do tough materials in a way that we think that they work. The resilience is much better.
So we try to increase the possibility of passive design to ensure that the ventilation is done in a smarter way. We increase the amount of light in the building without accepting the heat in, because that's a challenge that we deal with, to try to look at the limited resources that we have. We don't have trees, we don't have resources that you have certain types of clays. We don't have a lot of that material available here, but we have others that are available. So we try to tailor-make our projects to adapt to them in a very smart point of view, and to ensure that to reduce the biggest expenditure in our running the project, which is the use of the HVAC, which is the air conditioning system, we want to reduce it.
Food is what brings people together. And food, we spend a lot of time cooking. And our meals require a lot of creativity and a lot of patience. So if I want to take that and try to reflect it to the way we practice architecture, our process also requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of doing and redoing. If I want to relate it to, it's closer to the understanding of slow cooking. And if we're happy today, tomorrow morning we start from scratch, and we're not afraid to start from scratch. That's the
way is great. No,
yeah.
It's something that we push us to start from scratch.
Yeah.
The Opportunity Pavilion is for the Expo Dubai 2020.
Is all about human sustainability. And that was a challenge that we had to deal with because of the pillars of the Opportunity Pavilion and the Expo's themes that we had to address.
When we looked at the site for the project, the site was extremely large. It was 13,000 square meters. But what was challenging about the site was it was not one level. So it was very important for us to try to bridge the gap between the different levels. What we ended up doing actually was there was some simple programs and an extremely large site. So what we did was we actually used these buildings in such a way that we left most of the site open, and then most of the site became a plaza.
We treat like an umbrella, something that is really like an umbrella.
The structures supported a roof, and the roof was made out of metal structures with tensile fabric. The beauty of that was because we're in a very hot climate, it was shaded all throughout the day, but the plaza itself changed depending on what time of the day you were there. And of course, at night they had different mood lighting. So that definitely changed the way people behaved and interacted. And in the end, the whole point of the plaza was for people to meet and collectively gather. And in that point, I would say it was successful because they ended up scheduling things that were not supposed to be there because of how the space sort of cocooned the plaza, and it became a much more quieter place than the rest of the expo.
From our point of view, it's a project that we managed to design and supervise its execution in a very short period, less than 12 months. So the technology was a driver. The public realm was a key driver, and a comfortable environment that we needed to create publicly, and a space that is interchangeable. And we were lucky enough to be able to start the project, execute it, oversee it during Expo. So it's upgrade to its final stage, which is what it is right now, which is a conference center that holds many activities. So that's Opportunity. The name of the project is Sheikh Al Marzouk Kidney Transplant Center and Ahmad Al Bahar Neurology Building. They are two different programs, which is a donation by two individuals, a son and his mother. And these donations give us the different program, which is the kidney transplant and the neurosurgery. So the project is quite unique because it's literally like two in one. I think the facade, it's actually quite elegant because it tries to blend in with an environment, which is the movement of the water, the movement of the clouds in the sky. So we wanted to create more of an object that reacts to the environment, but stands away from being a shiny, glittery box into something that is a bit more reserved and quite elegant and reflects an environment that we believe healthcare should be all about, which is calmness. From an efficiency point of view, the building is designed to reduce the amount of heat gain into the project by introducing those very large arch-shaped louvers that react to the sun movement, but in the same time allows you to see to the outside without attracting the sun.
Pixel House is also in Kuwait. It was the second house that we did. It was not a very difficult house. To be honest, it wasn't. We enjoyed the house. We had to have fun.
It's like an area to have fun and enjoy with your family and friends. And then on the upper level, you have all the private area.
It's a ground floor and a first floor. From the inside, you also could interact. And we had just a small courtyard that is in the middle of the center. You could collaborate and interact in many ways.
We try to find out how this should be related to the climate and the filters, people that come from out the house, how they are going to approach the family, how they are going to approach the privacy, and how they are going to approach climate sensation. You get from a harsh environment to an interior pool area where you can relax.
We have a great client, and I think he drove us towards designing a very elegant response towards his openness, but also to his very private life. And we balance between both of them. How do we create an introverted living that is open to the outside with zero interference from the outside? So that was the trick. How do I see out and not allow anyone to see in? And I think that's the depth of that project and the achievement that we can to do.
We needed a house that was talking continuously to the garden, and the garden is a public garden. Anyone could go around and walk around. So we need to know we can close whenever we want and be completely secured. But if we feel we have friends and we want to profit from the outside garden, we can open completely the ground floor area and incorporate that garden to our experience.
When we deal with sustainability, it's something that is a must for us. Sustainability is really a must.
For us, the environmental sustainability is as important as the cultural sustainability. So the environmental sustainability is very much linked to how do we develop a project that is very site-specific, environmentally friendly, responses to the climate conditions, the environmental conditions, and so on. And part of the sustainable theories is actually the social sustainability. And that's something that is very important. So we look at it a bit more holistic, and we do not only focus on the mechanical part of the delivering a building that is more environmentally sensitive, but we're trying to look at it as a holistic vision where it has the social and the mechanical systems combined together.
AGi Living is another one of our experiments in housing for multi-family housing. What sets this project apart is actually it sits on a plot of 4,000 square meters, and it's a very narrow plot. The planning in that area does not allow you to go above 150% in terms of the FAR. So automatically, we had to think about how we design this building differently. And I think it was very successful because in the end, we came up with a horizontal approach.
The site gave us an opportunity to overlook the sea, but we wanted to create internal layers within the site of privacy that ensured that the end users have their private life, but also have their social life in a small site.
The selection of materials for that project, actually, part of it was from the client. The client was very interested in some of the historical motifs of like the arched windows. And so we really had to try to interpret that in a modern way. And the selection of the brick as well was something that we worked on together. We tried to select a color that was very earthy, that was very natural, that went well in terms of the context of where the building was situated by the sea, and as well how the brick responded to the natural humidity that existed in that location.
We believe we managed to recreate those meandering experiences within the historical neighborhoods into a singular plot that, from a hierarchy point of view, created courtyards, terraces for each family member, which are private, semi-private, and public. So that's the key element of AGi Living.
In terms of sustainability, I think, again, we look at the main drivers of sustainability. And so for us, working in a very hot climate, shading is very important, water is very important, vegetation is very important. So the brick ended up being a tool in which we were able to achieve this. So how do we achieve sort of privacy and as well shading from the neighbor? This was using the brick. By applying the use of courtyards, we're able to bring in, natural air, and again, it flows because of the cross ventilation that exists because of the open lattice work. And then introducing the vegetation and as well bodies of water to help cool the shared circulation spaces that exist between the dwellings. So we try to go back to these passive concepts that existed and try to interpret them in a new modern way that's appropriate for contemporary life.
I think the future of architecture is harder than we believe. From an environmental point of view, we all know that our resources continue to deplete. Our use of building materials and energy and all of that continues to be challenged. Time will make it only easier because we either reduce the scale of our development, so we consume less resources, which is number one, and I think that's already happening. Number two, we live more efficiently, so not only from a scale, but also from a consumption point of view, which I think also must happen. Otherwise, we will not be able, not even to live, but we cannot even eat. But most importantly, those bring up to the importance of happiness and the well-being.
Basically, we're trying to set the orientation of the anyways, yeah. This is the food water. There's like an outdoor kitchen. And this is the main powder room.
Okay.
They come back and Wednesday.
When we started with Villa Archipelago, it was a house made for a family with children.
They seem like a series of mini apartments or mini studios within one room.
When we envisioned the archipelago system and concept, we knew we had to wrap everything with some kind of unity. And this was related also to sustainability when we talk about shades and roofing strategies. And this element in terracotta with that horizontal line that breaks with the box idea of different spaces and different volumes. And also it gave us a shade area for the pool area, the barbecue area, and the exterior amenities. Archipelago Villa, it has one special thing that relates directly to cinema, the profession of one of the owners. And for me, it relates to LA houses. It's like the pool, it's completely connected to the living room. I mean, you can sit down in the living room and have your feet on the pool. So this is one of the features that make the house sound special. No?
I believe the project has two phases, the individual phase and the public phase. The public phase is the phase of uniformity, and the individual spaces are the ones which are the driver. But you only see that when you're inside the project and when you're using the project versus when you look at the project from the outside. Butte Plus is an industrial retail project that we are building as we speak. It's linked to our current retail practice, which is called the omni-channel retail practice. The harsh condition, the heat condition, it's very important to respond to. So within that project, we try to reduce the direct effect of the heat, but we wanted to increase the quality of natural sunlight within the circulation spaces, but also within the retail space. So we developed a series of skylights that responds not just also to the movement of the sun, but to the color. So you begin to perceive the mall or the retail environment differently throughout the day and differently throughout the different areas within the project itself. So it's an interesting experiment that we're being built, and I think the natural phenomena of light will begin to enrich this indoor-outdoor environment that we're developing. In this project, because of its scale and because of its industrial nature, we wanted to ensure that we develop all of the elements, and the facades is one of them, in factories that we're able to reproduce in high volumes, but use the minimum amount of resources to develop them with the highest accuracy.
Wafar Living is one of sort of the experiments that we have done in housing in Kuwait. We have a series of them, and it's a project for multi-family living. It sits on a plot around 6,000 square meters. If you're familiar with Wafra Wind Tower, which is a project that we did before, this was the second competition for the same client. And we tried to explore some of the ideas in that project, but in a completely different way. It was a very challenging project because from the time we won the competition until the time we started site, it was about a decade. But that just shows you how slow sort of our industry is.
Wafar Living is an experiment of multifamily housing that we continue to do in Kuwait. It's a need for people to transform from single-family homes to multifamily houses that have multiple generations of extended family members living in one large building.
The Wafar Living is actually designed around 5 cores. And one of the things about that building that perhaps makes it very interesting is like how we approach issues of code. So every building has to have, for example, 2 staircases for fire escape. What we were able to achieve is actually for every 2 buildings have 3 and not 4. What we did is we actually integrated the staircases together and connected them through a veil, which is that golden structure that you see. So I think the veil played a very important role because it also gave us a bit of privacy and changed the way people looked at the staircase. The staircase was no longer just an emergency stair. It actually became very much a social space for the users.
Those buildings are not only limited to living spaces, but also to a lot of external social spaces that try to reinterpret the historical neighborhood settings which were horizontal, into vertical neighborhood settings that happen within a very large multifamily residential project.
Wafar Living, it was a kind of difficult project because it had a lot of things.
It was very important to delve the use of technology with the materiality of the building. The terracotta is on the main thick walls. The aluminum is a much lighter material on the veil for the staircase. So it was important for us to try to select materials and use them purposefully where they were needed to achieve not only environmental responsiveness, but also social appropriateness.
This is laundry, storage one.
Let me see the application.
And this one is something that is coming like...
Here already it's adjusted to open in this direction. If
And
we take
place
this and take this and place them.
Yeah. You see, this is huge. We built AGi Architects in a way that we never wanted to be Nasser and me. So we always wanted to have people going around, you know, searching for other types of influence, you know.
Primarily, the main value within the office is actually how do we improve the life of the human. And I think that's the constant challenge that we try to achieve. And the life of the human being is not a simple challenge. It's actually a very complex challenge. So there is a direct correlation between happiness and well-being and the type of architecture that you're developing. So we know statistically that this is the way forward. And I think in our practice, we continually try to challenge that. I think the challenge is you have to keep believing that architecture has value. And to understand the value of architecture is not something that you could only read or even see. It's actually, you have to experience. And in order for you to experience, it requires time, it requires maturity, it requires opportunity. The architects, I think one of the biggest advice is you need to travel, you need to explore, you need to see, you need to feel, you need to understand the resources, you need to begin to materialize things with both your hands. And probably the biggest advice that I could give to them, talk to your clients, talk to your end users, talk to the people, observe what they do, and when they inhabit the projects that you do. That will only inform you how to design better projects in the future.